it off with the Rams, who we all picked to finish first.
He's a sad boner.
First this season. A very productive offense overall last year. 14th for quarterback in points per game. 4th for running back. 3rd for wide receiver. Thanks to that Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp breakout. Let's start off with the top of the depth chart, though. What do we see Jared Goff doing in 2018?
First off, can I just start on the overarching thing? Did you see what they're doing at offensive coordinator?
No.
They have 2 of them.
Oh.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got Aaron Cromer for the run and Shane Waldron handling the pass. And the guy that's handling the passing work was historically a running backs coach.
Well, this will
This will go great.
go great.
No, I think it just means that McVay is the offensive coordinator and calling the play.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
In all but name only.
Yeah. All right. Jared Goff, though, I think he probably maintains a lot of his numbers and gets a slightly longer leash on the offense. What I mean by that, I don't mean he was in danger of being pulled, but I think he was used in a lot of safe passing situations when you look at his numbers from last year. So I think the handcuffs kind of come off of him a little bit more. The 5.9 touchdown rate was a tad high, but I think he's safe and that they will let him throw it. Cousins was usually high 4s as far as his TD rate when he was playing with McVay, so I could see that kind of being where, Goff might settle out. I don't expect him to be at 5.9 again. We talk about TD rate a lot on the show and what's good and what's not, so I'll spare that argument, but 5.9 is high. And the interception rate was absurdly low, but that is a product of this offense. McVay is really good about setting up his quarterbacks to not turn the ball over. Cousins was always insanely low. So for Goff, I think it's more of the same, maybe a little boost even from Cooks showing up.
Yeah, I expected that he'd probably see a slight bump in his points per game from an volume standpoint, but his efficiency is probably going to drop. I think his interception rate probably jumps up slightly. Should also see a slight regression in his touchdown rate, which should probably keep him right about where he was last year. He's 12th in my rankings. He was 12th in points per game last year.
He's my QB 14. I expect a little bit of regression. He had 28 touchdowns last year. I think that dropped just a bit with Sammy Watkins not there anymore, who was hyper efficient in the red zone when he had his targets.
Yeah, I didn't realize he had 8 touchdowns until I went and looked at the
Chiefs.
It
was
on 70 targets. That's nuts.
He caught
targets.
What?
6 end zone targets.
Mm-hmm.
He had 7 for 7. He had 7 red zone, and he caught all 7 of them for touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I think there might be a slight dip, but just like you guys said, this is a high-powered offense. They may not finish number 1 in points per game like they did last year, but they're going to be at least top 7, top 8, and Goff is smart. I think he was like 15th interceptable passes and danger plays, so he doesn't take those deep risks because he doesn't need to. This offense is built through Todd Gurley, and Goff will make the throws that he needs to.
Travis?
Yeah, I'm on board with all of that. I think that Goff is slightly overrated. And I mean, Dan, you just said it, like that offense runs through Todd Gurley. Sean McVay is creative enough to use Goff the right way, as a game manager plus who's going to finish. I have him kind of more towards that 15 to 18 range. Honestly, I think there's some decent regression coming for him statistically, but I still think the offense is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, I initially had him at 16, which to me says that he's in that streamer conversation every week like he was last year. And if you're playing Superflex, just to throw you a bone, he's a really good QB2 to have.
I agree. And he was really good against bad defenses, and he struggled against good ones. And the Rams are going to face a lot better defenses when you finish number 1 in your division. And you get
a couple more.
Look at the Vikings, Saints, and
Jags.
And Eagles, and I think they put the AFC South,
which would be the Jags,
Houston.
Yep, you got to go and get up against the vaunted Cardinals defense too.
That's twice.
So
whoever Patrick Peterson's on, fade them.
So he is going 909, and he's the 11th quarterback off the board. So I probably will not own a lot of Goff this year, but it's close to where I think he should be going.
I'm off on Goff.
There's about 3 more guys I like in that range.
Yeah, he's going a similar range to like Stafford, and
I'd take Stafford every day.
Forget a few other guys. I think Luck's in that range too.
There's a lot of quarterbacks I'd much rather have in that range.
Yeah, I would take those guys over Goff. All right, moving on to the running game. Todd Gurley, first in points per game last year, finished just as a rocket to finish up the season. Where do you guys have him in your rankings, and what do you project for him trying to repeat his 2017?
So I can't actually answer this one honestly without the whole caveat of this is just a gut feel because I actually projected them.
He's my 102. Or he's my second, so my 102. when you look at his advanced metrics on playerprofile.com, it's hard to find what he did bad because there's so very few of it. But he struggled against sack fronts, 0.3 yards per carry, 49th in the league. Or 49th amongst running backs. He struggled to create for himself 1.16 yards per carry, and he only had a 24.5% juke rate. It's not bad, but it's more average. And that's about it.
He's not going to juke you out of your shoes, though. That's not his game.
Exactly.
He is my running back, too. He's the only running back in the last 20 years besides Marshall Faulk to pull 80 targets at a 12.3 yards per reception clip. So I see his targets and his yards per reception jumping down. I wanted to project fewer carries, but in the end, I really didn't think I could because I think the Rams are going to be up late in a lot of games, but they're going to be close enough to where they have to keep the offense going. So they're not going to bench him, in other words. And I also think that they're fighting for playoff positioning in week 17 and don't just have the freebie in week 17 this year.
Yeah, and it's not like they...
So overall, if you're still playing in week 17, you're wrong. But just in case.
They didn't invest in a high backup anyways. I mean, I know they have John Kelly and something called Mac Brown, but I don't... There's not... I mean,
Malcolm
we like...
Brown.
As I really care, we like John Kelly, but his 6th-round draft capital isn't going to scream, I'm going to take 90 to 100 touches away from him.
No, it's not. And he was top 2 in goal line touches and red zone touches, and the Rams didn't add a red zone threat, and in fact, they subtracted one. So,
All right. Well, in case you guys didn't take everything, Travis, anything to add?
Nope.
We should let him start with somebody.
No, you're good.
At a certain point, I'm like, all right, are we going to let Travis speak here with you two?
I'm
Get excited,
I'm
Nick.
just
Come
used to
on.
people jumping in.
He is the 101 in ADP.
Yeah, you guys are really bad on calling on people.
We don't call on people.
Yeah, we don't.
ever.
Just kidding.
he is the number 1 in ADP. It sounds like we all have him ranked second. Who's all your number 1 running backs?
I have Bell.
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 All right.
I actually think I might go. I mean, you could see Gurley finishing 1 or 4 if all 4 of those guys stay healthy. I mean, they're so close.
Yeah, they are.
That's why you want the 104 this year in redraft leagues.
Yeah, just take whoever falls to you and you get a higher pick in the second round.
Yep.
And then if he does have a handcuff, who you guys betting on? And Travis, you're kicking this one off.
I think on it, man, it's probably John Kelly. I mean, we all want it to be John Kelly, but I liked Malcolm Brown before. And it's not like John Kelly was drafted with any sort of significant draft capital. So I could see it being kind of a split role there. But you probably I'd go with the shiny new toy and John Kelly.
He should also be the better pass catcher, I think. So that should help
He will
him.
be. I think it starts out RBBC, and then whoever just becomes better will take that role over.
I was also looking at my rankings wrong. He is my RB1 over Bell by 7 points.
Okay. That's a close
That's
projection.
a very close projection.
Yeah.
That just says how good these top 4
The
are.
first 4 are all within 8 points of each other
Dang. Okay.
That's incredible.
for different reasons.
That's exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the wide receivers. I'm assuming. Well, I should say, who is your top ranked receiver on this team?
I have Woods
Robert
by
Woods.
1 spot over Cooks.
I've got Cooks.
I also have Cooks as my highest by actually a decent amount. Quick reasoning for me is every single season he's always had over 100 targets if he's played all 16 games. Watkins in the same role last year had 70, so I think he's gonna demand more targets, so he'll pull up that 30, 40 point jump. That should pull targets from Woods and Kupp, which makes Cooks my number 1 on this team.
Yeah, and for me, I know that I said I don't like the way it lines up with Goff's game, but I think in New England that he showed that he can be more than just the deep threat. 14.1 yards per reception for his career. He had a lower catch rate last year, but ultimately, I think he just gets the volume. I think that 8.5 yards per target was what Watkins had last year, which is not exactly stretching the field. So I just think it's a volume thing. I still like Woods, but he's virtually a lock to always miss time, and I don't like projecting people based on that. But he's got 1 16-game season, 2 14-game seasons, a 13 and a 12. Woods does, and he's going to lose some target volume. So I think he's going to work deep less with Cooks there. Also, Woods will, which kind of helped him in a couple games where he broke off some big receptions and some big touchdown runs that drove his numbers up. So I just think that it's a volume thing for Cooks, and that edges him over Woods.
Woods was a wide receiver 39 before he had his breakout, so he wasn't. I mean, he was more of a safe floor play, which is why we liked him, and that's also the same with Kupp. I like the Cooks move, especially for the just as an NFL move, because Cooks fills the deep threat role better than what Watkins did last year, and I think Cooks is also the future of this Rams receiving core, which I think they're gonna show that more this year as well, as Watkins came through in a trade mid to late August, and he didn't have a lot of time to work with Goff. I just find it hard to trust it because I think Goff's going to take the easier chances here, and I think he's built better rapport with both Woods and Kupp at this point, and it's just hard to guess. I have them all within, I think, 10 spots of each other.
I must be the weird one then because I got quite a bit bigger split. Travis, what's your argument for Woods over Cooks?
I was just going to say, I think I might actually be changing my mind.
We do that well.
So my initial thought is Woods over Kupp and redraft, or Woods over Cooks, but I think that actually might be really, really freaking silly. I mean, Cooks is a really good player. I've never been high on him in Dynasty. I think he's kind of, he's kind of limited. I don't want people to think I'm saying he's a limited player, but he just a little tiny bit. And my biggest hang up with Cooks is Goff is not a great downfield passer, but I mean, Cooks is a better receiver than Woods. And I think it might just be as simple as that. So to say that Woods is going to finish ahead of him might end up being a silly statement. I think I might go Cooks, and his ADP right now is kind of, I mean, it's 5th round. I'd take Brandin Cooks in the 5th round.
I was just about to ask you guys that. Who would you rather want given their ADP? Cooks at 504 or Woods at 708?
Well, given the ADP, I'll take Woods.
But that's where this really starts with the two. Cooks is also a little boom busty. I mean, that was the big argument for us last year when we had this conversation when he went to New England.
Weren't you the one that was arguing against that last year?
I was, and then I looked at it, and it was true. He had 5 wide receiver 1 finishes, and he had 6 wide receiver 4 or worse finishes. So, I mean, that's what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, he's gonna be frustrating, but he can also straight up.
I still won that shot bet too.
You did win that shot bet
because I don't give a fuck.
He's always frustrating to own, which is why I don't like to own him. But if you're asking me,
who?
Brandin Cooks.
Cooks, okay.
But if you're asking me to put a throw on at the end of the year, who's going to end up as the better wide receiver? It's Cooks.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
All right,
I agree with you there.
It came down to it. And Robert Woods had this quote unquote breakout season last year. He had 56 catches for 781 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yep.
I mean,
all in like 3
that's
weeks.
Not something, right? I mean, but that's not a guy I want as, my wide receiver 2 by any means. So, I mean, Cooks has never had a season even close to that.
All right, well, let's go ahead and kick it into the slot here and talk about Cooper Kupp. How are we feeling about him in 2018?
You want to talk about what's his ADP, Dan?
812. He's in between them.
No, he's a third.
He's the third one.
He's the third one. I'm sorry.
I'll take him because he's a solid guy that I can roll into my flex on bye weeks. And if somebody gets hurt, he's basically the perfect wide receiver for Goff's game. He was 3rd in yards after catch, 19th in separation. He works over the middle, so there's room to improve his catch rate, but his contested catch rate wasn't bad. And I just think he's a great fit as a receiver for Goff. He's almost always a lock for 5 to 7 targets a game, and he's a safe guy. And when you talk about Cooks being boom bust and being frustrating to own, and Robert Woods doing it all in 3 weeks, I think Cooper Kupp's the guy that's going to give you some consistency. And if I can get him in the 8th round as my 3rd or even 4th wide receiver at that point, then yeah, I'm all about that.
He also led the team in red zone targets.
He did,
and
I do think that fades slightly this year.
I don't think it does though, because Woods is. I don't know how big Woods is. I don't have that up. But Watkins was their best red zone guy, and he's gone. And Cooks is the red zone guy.
I will get to my reasoning for that in a moment.
Gerald Everett?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Travis?
But that's one guy, though.
Travis, any thoughts on Kupp?
No.
Okay.
All right.
That was quick.
So there's got 2 tight ends on the team, Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. I'm personally betting on Everett here because I liked his profile coming out of college. He was a 2nd-year draft pick in a very, very good tight end class last year. What do we think of him in year 2?
I want to like him, but when I look at it, the tight ends themselves, even as a whole, weren't necessarily targeted enough to make me excited. Proportionally, Everett did get used in the red zone more, and I think that he does stand to see some benefit from the Watkins departure, but his usage in between the 20s and the tight ends usage in between the 20s in general, especially with Todd Gurley plus 3 other viable wide receivers there, really concerns me. I know McVay and Reed went well together. Both tight ends are viable receiving tight ends. Higbee and Everett both have proven that they can do it and flashes that they can do it, but consistently they weren't used that way last year. Neither one of them, and even as the combination of the 2 of them. So for a redraft, I kind of want to avoid this, but if I'm doing what we talked about and I miss out on the first couple tight ends and I'm looking at a Rams tight end as one of my 2 late round flyers, or even just at like 2 late round flyers for a tight end, it's Everett.
Yeah, I got him ranked higher, but like you said everything perfectly, Hopper. It's they're not even going to be 4th or 5th on this totem pole, and they both eat into each other's work. Neither one of them, I think, had over 5 receptions or 5 targets last year.
Nope.
So I mean, it's they like Higbee, they like Everett. I do agree with you, though, Nick. I think you will see more uptick in the red zone. I don't trust the tight ends here until they use them more.
I mean, he's 26th in my ranking, so I'm not like
I have him at 32. I mean, I'm not high on either of them.
I think this is the year we start seeing flashes from him, though, and he'll have like a random 2 touchdown game and start getting on people's radar. So I think he will start to kind of turn into maybe that Jimmy Graham all red zone target type role, and we'll start seeing that more in 2019.
It's a dynasty flash.
Oh yeah,
if one of them gets hurt, I like the other one. I will definitely be well more intrigued. I think with just one there, you can see a low end to mid streamer with some value in deeper leagues.
Travis?
Yeah, I'm not drafting either one of these guys in redraft, honestly. In dynasty, though, I'll take Gerald Everett, largely because he was the handpicked choice of the new regime, and he's showed some flashes already.
Yep, that does matter.
I agree.
All right. Anything else before we ring the bell on the LA Rams or St. Louis Rams, as we'd prefer?
We have a bell now?
I mean, it's just a phrase. You can add a bell if you'd like.
There you go.
You didn't tell me to do this beforehand. I don't have one handy.
All right.
That's not a bell.
Let's move on to these.
There you go. Pull it closer. Here we go.
Dong.
Yeah, we can't hear that.
And moving on.